Hello everyone, this is part 4 of What If Naruto Gained Ashura's Memories, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Kakashi was happy, but most of all, relived when they finally made it back to the village. On the entire way from Nami, Naruto used every available moment to dabble with notes of Fuinjutsu. The kid was an Uzumaki and several of his direct Senju ancestors were renowned masters of the art, too, but seals were tricky and dangerous. And while Naruto had his parents' notes, Kakashi would have been much calm, if there was a proficient teacher guiding the blonde. He knew this and that, you couldn't let no seals, when your sensei and almost aunt were masters of it, but it was far from enough to guide his student. In fact, Kakashi could safely say that Naruto has already surpassed him, in that field. Yamato knew even less than Kakashi did, if it came to the intricate field. Where was Jiraiya-sama, when he was needed? The man had taught Minato-sensei and on top of it, was Naruto's godfather. He should be here for the blonde. Of course, Kakashi understood that as a spy master, he was busy, but didn't he have some time for his godson? Like dropping in after 12 years. On the other hand, Kakashi wasn't sure he wanted to be there, when Naruto and thus, Sasuke met the Sannin. They would most likely try to gut him and say that the man had abandoned Naruto hours after he was born. A part of Kakashi, the evil part, agreed. Jiraiya, after he'd seen how much Naruto had looked like both of his parents. The point was that Naruto was very good with seals, and on the third day back from Nami, Kakashi had lost the blonde halfway trough an explanation. Yamato was already brain dead by then, trying to catch up. Sasuke had wisely tuned Naruto out, saying he trusted the blonde without question, if it came to seals. And now, no, Kakashi was worried. They'd sent the boys to rest and had given the report to the Hokage about the messy, upgraded, but still successful mission. That had happened yesterday, and now Kakashi stood on the usual training ground with no students in sight. Where were the students he was supposed to teach? Well, maybe at this point, Naruto should teach him, if it came to seals, but shush, no one in the village needed to know that. He wanted some of his pride intact, after all. Yamato had been called away for other sort of work. With the Chunin exams just over the horizon, they needed to be extra cautious with security. So for a while, he would handle the boys on his own. If only he had boys to handle. He huffed, trying to recall where he would find the boys. Where could they? Oh, yes. The Hokage monument. Naruto liked sitting on his father's stone head and watch the village go by with their lives. He quickly turned and headed towards the monument. They would either be sitting on Minato-sensei's head or they would be on the plateau behind the heads. It was the spot where they usually escaped to be alone. It was the spot where not even Anbu had followed them after a while. They just kept an eye out around the area, but no one ever approached them. Whenever they were up there, it was private time and even shinobi respected privacy. After about 12 minutes, he finally reached the place, and in another 5 minutes, he even made it to the top. He froze in the shadows of the stairs, as he saw how relaxed both of his students were, Naruto leaning on Sasuke's shoulder. In that moment, they indeed looked like brothers, regardless of the stark contrast in appearance. It was almost like his eyes were playing tricks on him, as two other people's shadows seemed to overlap with his students' forms. Brown-haired people he'd never seen, wearing old, formal white kimonos. Ni-sama, do you think it would work? Naruto asked, his voice a lazy, almost sleepy slur. Even after all this time, it threw him off how formal the two were with each other, despite the abyvous friendship and brotherly affection. What would work, Ototo? Sasuke asked. His own voice was just a bit sharper, more awake. Still, they were obviously content and unfocused, otherwise he would have been long detected. Not that Kakashi minded it. Even after years of watching the boys grow up, they were still an unsolved mystery. This was his chance to find out something more, perhaps. Kuchios. Naruto answered. We signed our contracts so long ago. Do you think we could summon them? Kakashi blinked owlishly. The boys had summons of their own. Since when? Besides, it couldn't be too long ago, since they were barely 13, Naruto wasn't even 13. So, obviously the Uzumaki was exaggerating. Sasuke hummed. From my knowledge, it should still work. I remember Oto-sama saying to choose partners wisely, because they will stay with us all our lives. And, considering everything, I think those contracts should still hold. Because we are stillway, even if we aren't. Kakashi's head spun. Since when would Sasuke be so formal with dead parents, to still call Fugaku, Oto-sama? Gods, he'd known the Uchiha were a bunk to keep traditions, just like the Hyuga, but this was pushing it. Let's try. Naruto murmured and then stood up. Kakashi's back was ramrod straight, as the boys stood, side by side. They wouldn't try Kuchio's, right? Not without a contract, right? Except, they did just that, faster than Kakashi could truly comprehend. Drawing B from their hands, running trough the hand signs at a speed Kakashi never thought he would see Genin perform them. Hitsuji, Inu, Tori, Saru, Hitsuji, and then their palms were on the ground, the jutsu shiki spreading from beneath their hands. And to his shock, both glowed with the overload of chakra. Naruto's was gold-green, while Sasuke's was blue-purple. Kuchio's no jutsu. Summoning technique, they announced at the same time, and the next minute there were two identical plumes of smoke. When the smoke cleared, Kakashi's jaw dropped. In front of Sasuke, stood a massive, horse-sized, wolf. It had pitch-black fur and orange eyes, like two simmering ambers. Its massive fangs glinted sharply, and Kakashi had no doubt this beast was more dangerous than any of his dogs ever could be. Naruto was facing a magnificent white stag, the same size as the wolf, and it had the most beautiful antlers Kakashi has ever seen. Almost like the interlocked branches of an ancient tree, pure ivory in color, but as the light fell on them, they seemed almost gold. Its hooves were the same. How the hell did the boys have such summons? He had read this and that about some of the summons and their realms. The wolf contract had been lost ages ago, and he hadn't even known there was a contract. He heard rumors, but like every other sane human, he thought it some legend, from the time of the Rikudo Sennin. And then, to his shock, both great summons lowered their heads, after a moment of contemplation, as if they had trouble recognizing their summoners. How ridiculous was that? Summons don't forget the face of their summoners. No one had more than one face, in their life, after all. Indra-sama, the wolf greeted. Ashura-sama, the deer intoned in a softer tone, careful that it's his antlers wouldn't harm his blonde student. Not deer, of. Wait, why the hell would those summons call his students by different names? What in the name of Kami was going on? Naruto smiled and reached out, stroking the stag's fur. Shirotsuno, old friend. A pleasure to see you again, Kujutsume. Sasuke said, as he took a step closer. The two summons leaned into the touches of his students, momentarily not acknowledging one another. But then, the wolf started growling, as its fiery eyes landed on the stag. You. The wolf snarled. The stag glared back, his hooves clattering on the stone. Kakashi never thought to see such ice-cold, deadly conviction in the eyes of a herbivorous animal, summon or not. Yes, me. Enough, his students said at once, their voices cracking like whips. Kakashi couldn't help but shake at the amount of power and authority that single word carried. Both of the great beast looked at their summoners in shock. We are not enemies, Sasuke said, his tone level. We started something and now we finished it. We shall never fight again. Naruto spoke, his tone ringing with finality. We stand side by side, as brothers should. As we should always have. Sasuke said. So, I believe, it is time to cease the hostilities between the wolves of Theobate Mori, Haunted Forest, and the deer of the Hoshizoratani, Starry Valley. We work together now. Know well, that your clans have always been at odds as it is the order of nature. But no more open violence. Just keep clear of each other. For a while, the two summons seemed to consider it. Then, both nodded. It shall be as you wish, both said at once. The boys smiled. Well, Naruto grinned more like and leaned into their summon's fur again. And then, suddenly, the wolf twitched. Indra-sama, someone's here. Both of his students perked up at those words and Kakashi cursed colorfully in the privacy of his mind. He did a quick body flicker, hoping and praying that Naruto hadn't caught his chakra signature. Kakashi's first stop was the Hokage office. They had a meeting about the upcoming Chunin exam anyway. Afterwards, he could ask the Hokage about those summons. The thought of Sasuke having wolves as partners still nagged at him. That contract had once belonged to the Uchiha clan, if the old scrolls were to be believed, but it had been lost even before the time of Madara and the Shodai. Once he arrived in the office, he settled in a corner, surprising many that he was on time. He was rarely late to things, since he'd taken the boys under his wing, but it was something many of his colleagues were unused to. The Hokage seemed vaguely pleased at his appearance, too. He was sure that they would have a private word anyway, considering the unique setup his team had. After all, himself and Yamato could not join the boys, they would just be spectators trough the exam. The boys could only count on each other, but Kakashi wasn't too worried. As close as they were, he was sure they would not be separated so easily. As you're all aware, the Hokage started after a few minutes, when he was sure all those who were meant to be here were present. This year's Chunin exams will start soon and we will be hosting them. First and foremost, I would like to say that this means the strengthening of our security, to ensure the safety of our guests, as well as the order of the village. Mutters of agreement and acknowledgement passed through the room. The Chunin exams were always the busiest time of the year. Also, I would like to know which teams will be nominated, the Kage asked, his aged, but still sharp eyes sweeping the room. A few senseis, who had their teams since last year's, like Guy, nominated their teams, believing them ready. Much to everyone's surprise and the disapproval of a few Kurenai nominated her team, too. Her kids had graduated this year with Sasuke and Naruto, but that wasn't the only reason her announcement caused a stir. Kurenai was one of the newest, most inexperienced jonin of the village. Kakashi could tell that many were questioning her sanity at that bold move. However, the Hokage waved it off, saying he trusted the team leader's judgment of their students, regardless of nominating a team or not. Asuma also nominated the new Inoshika Cho trio. When the Hokage's eyes fell on him, Kakashi knew what were the words that the Hokage was expecting, regardless of the boys being ready or not. It was a good thing that they were skilled and learned fast. Theory ready. I, Hitaki Kakashi, nominate Team 13, consisting of Genin's Uchiha Sasuke and Senju Uzumaki Naruto, for the Chunin exams, he stated calmly. Very well, Kakashi, the Hokage nodded, accepting his words. Unsurprisingly, several of his peers looked at him as if he'd lost his mind. Alter Asuma was looking at his father, as if the man had lost his mind in his old age. Luckily, the Sarutobi knew better than to voice any protests. Soon after the forms were passed, the meeting was dismissed. Alter Kakashi remained, lingering just by the edge. Once even the last of the gathered left, the Hokage looked at him, taking a drag of his pipe. How are they faring? Kakashi didn't even mask the pride in his voice. Very good, Hokage-sama. However, both of them are naturally talented. Once Naruto gets over certain problems, and it is safe to say that they just need the guiding hand, not actual teaching. Neither from me, nor from Yamato. They teach themselves and each other, most of the time. But there's been times when they did turn to us for help, even Sasuke. It seems the arrogance the academy mentioned is not as bad as they had made it out to be. And while he had mentioned going after Itachi that first day, he doesn't even acknowledge that the man is out there somewhere. Keeps saying we are his family, Naruto, Yamato and myself, that is. Both of them consider the team their family, in fact. He paused, letting all of the information sink in. It's humbling, in a way, because they consider us a part of the extended family, as Sasuke had said, as we are in possession of their clan's Kekkei Genkai, regardless of the fact that neither myself nor Yamato were born with them. Kakashi added at last. The Hokage seemed thoughtful for a moment and nodded. It's indeed nice thing to hear. It bodes well for both of them. Both of them had been alone, and it's calming that they are willing to forge bonds, other than what they share. No matter how few those bonds are. Kakashi hummed. Yes. It seemed that the advice and care we showed them with Yamato grounded them. It showed them that they aren't alone or just the two of them. Kakashi chuckled. It's cute how protective they can be sometimes. Even if they know that Yamato and I can handle ourselves. The Hokage chuckled in amusement. Well, then, be sure to take care of your new family, Kakashi-kun. Kakashi's eye crinkled into a smile. I will, Hokage-sama. As he moved towards the window, he recalled the main reason he'd wanted to speak with the man. Hokage-sama. The man turned in his seat to look at him again. Yes, Kakashi. What do you know of summons? Wolves and deer, to be precise. The boys hadn't come to our spot, and just before the meeting, I found them on the monument, the plateau, to be precise. They did a summoning. I didn't even know they had signed contracts, and by the way they spoke of it, and by the way the summons themselves greeted the boys, they have it for a while. The Hokage studied him for a very long moment, his eyes wide. Wolves and deer, you say? Kakashi nodded. The wolf clan of Phobake Mori and the deer clan of Hoshizora Tani. That's what they said. I've only heard of them in legends, the aged man admitted. I thought them to be naught but legend. Kakashi nodded. Do you by chance remember something of that legend? The Hokage's face fell thoughtful. Not much. Only that those clans are among the most ancient ones. If I remember correctly, those clans were the first one to make a contract with humans. Precisely, they made contracts with the two sons of the Rikudo Sennin. The sons, who were the forefathers of the Uchiha and Senju clans. Kakashi's mind was working overtime, trying to connect the dots. Have the names been recorded? The sons. The Hokage nodded slowly, almost unsure. Jiraiya mentioned something. Something that the Toad spoke of in passing. There are rumors that the great Toad sage had met the Sennin in his youth. I think, yes. The sons were named Ashura and Indra. Kakashi's mind came to a screeching halt. Indra and Ashura. Those were the names the two summons had used, when they addressed his students. Why are you asking, Kakashi? Kakashi tried feigning nonchalance. He shrugged. Just curious. My students, do after all, seem to have those ancient contracts. How they came across it, is a mystery I have yet to solve. The Hokage seemed satisfied with the answer. Well, maybe you could try asking them. Those are ancient contracts and had not been in circulation for a long time, long enough to fall into legend. Kakashi nodded. I will be sure to mention it to them, once I meet them for training, he murmured. Then he nodded to the Sandaime and leapt out the window. As he sped off the rooftops, his mind was still trying to give meaning to all he had heard. Why would the members of two legendary summon clans call my cute, little students by the name of their forefathers, who are literal legends? It was a mystery he intended to solve, no matter how long it took or how unnice it was of him, as a trusted sensei, to snoop around his students and pseudo-little brothers. When Kakashi found his students hours later, they were sitting at Ichiraku Ramen, eating. Well, Sasuke was eating and Naruto was eating ramen. It was such a Kushina thing to do, that Kakashi's age ached. Did the blonde realize just how much he was like his parents? He was painfully similar to them, yet at the same time, he was much more. Something else, to which Kakashi couldn't name. Calm and composed, when need be, calculating and polite in a way not even Minato-sensei had been. But, if the Nadaime was Naruto's great-grandfather, then perhaps those were things the blonde had inherited from him. He'd heard that the man had been calculating, pragmatic and polite sometimes so much, that they called him distant and cold. But Naruto also had a warm, bubbly and charming personality, that if the Sandaime was right, was as much Minato-sensei as much it was Shodaime-sama. And on the top of it all, Naruto was a genius, when it came to seals. Much like Sensei, Tobirama-sama or Mitohime had been. The Sandaime would not have mentioned them, if it were not true. Kakashi chuckled at the thoughts. It seemed as if Naruto had collected the best, most useful traits from all his family, regardless of them being Senju or Uzumaki. Sasuke. Sasuke was much harder to compare, Kakashi mused. He was not as energetic as Obito or Shisui had been. Rather, he was calm and rational, like Itachi had been, but in Alistair Tachedway. And he was just as caring and loving, as Shisui and Mikoto-san had been, even if he showed it rarely or in odd ways. Sometimes stoic and overly wary, borderline cold, as Kakashi remembered Uchiha Fugaku to be, yet it didn't seem like that, either. The boys were like their families in a lot of ways, but there were things Kakashi could not place for dear life. Like the wisdom they seemed to possess, well beyond their years. Wisdom and sadness and darkness, that didn't belong in children, yet it was not a sort of darkness, that came from their rocky start. No, it wasn't even darkness, just a shadow. As if they knew more than teens their age should. As if they carried a weight they were afraid to share with anyone else, other than each other, or, as if they couldn't share that weight with anyone, but each other. Indra. Ashura. The name slithered into his mind unchecked, and Kakashi found his single eye narrowing on his students. What did it mean? What were they hiding? Because, looking back, it was obvious. Ever since that day, when he found Naruto resting on Sasuke's shoulder, the Uchiha drinking tea, they were hiding something. They trained like no other. They saw the world in a different light than others there, they saw the world in a different light than some adults. He had asked Naruto once what he thought about the fox sealed inside him, and Naruto had answered that he was sad for it. Sad, because the fox was angry and bitter and knew nothing to care for others anymore. There'd been a time when the likes of the fox were caring. But, perhaps it had been his conversation with Sasuke, before the wave mission, that had been most eye-opening. Eye-opening to how much the village has misjudged not only his sensei's son, but also Sasuke. Kakashi was most surprised to find Sasuke alone. There was no Naruto in sight when he arrived on the training ground. Instead, Sasuke only had a cute puppy with him. The dog barked sharply at his arrival, and Sasuke gently patted the animal, with a cross look on his regal features. Ah, damn the Uchiha and their near-perfect looks. Good morning, Kakashi-sensei. Sasuke greeted, as he poked the puppy again, as the animal growled. Shiro, enough. He's our friend. The puppy made an unhappy sound, before obediently settling next to the Uchiha. When Sasuke was satisfied, their eyes met. Gamen. He's a bit unsure of new people. Ma, think nothing of it. I have dogs too. They're nin dogs, true, but some things are the same, regardless of them being summons or normal dogs. He studied the puppy for a second. Sasuke was calmly stroking its fur, sitting straight and regal, even now, when he was supposedly relaxed. True. I didn't know you had a dog. Kakashi remarked. I found him after moving in with Naruto. Just a few days after graduation. Naruto adores him too, so we decided to keep him. He's small yet, so he doesn't eat all that much, he said calmly. His face was calm and unmoving, like a lake, but Kakashi could see he loved the animal. He cared for it in the same odd sort of way he cared for Naruto. Someone under Inaki, who'd examined Sasuke, had said that he might be a problem without proper guidance. But problematic people, problematic shinobi, candidate or active, did not care for animals so openly. In that moment, Sasuke didn't seem to be problematic at all. Kakashi sat down on the ground too, not too far from his student. The puppy, Shiro, poked his nose towards him in a curious, cute way. His black eyes watched Kakashi curiously, but he didn't move from under Sasuke's hand, stroking the brown fur. You know, Sasuke, I'm supposed to have this conversation with both you and Naruto. About your future. It's a bit more complicated for you too, as you have no families to fall back on, he started cautiously. Sasuke looked at him, his eyes calculating, narrowed just a bit. I have Naruto and he has me. It's how it had been for a long while. We're fine, Alter, I suppose, ish old, thank you for your concern. Kakashi eyed him. There was it again. That overly formal tone, that did not belong into this period. Perhaps into the Warring Clans era, but neither into this more modern society. The Hokage hummed. Have you thought of what to do with your life, if you make it to Jonin? Perhaps join Anbu once Naruto makes Hokage. Sasuke seemed thoughtful, then gave a tiny snort. No. Naruto would drag me to the Hokage monument and drop me from the top, after binding my chakra, if ever considered Anbu. He wants me as his right hand, yes, so he said, but in a more open way. I see, and what do you think of it? Sasuke huffed, obviously annoyed with the probing, but he was far too polite and composed to tell him to F off. I think it's okay. He's my best friend, my brother. I want to help him build something new, better. We promised and I want to keep that promise. The I want to keep it this time was muttered so softly that Kakashi almost didn't hear it. He filed that away for later. Best not push his luck. Sasuke was, after all, willing to open up to him somewhat. I see. And what of your brother? He asked. Now that Sasuke was more content, he dared risking the question. Sasuke arched an eyebrow. Hell. Even the way he arched an eyebrow and looked at him in a fat now. Look, was noble. This kid could go and parade among the long-robed, Parfam nobles of the Fire Daimyo's court and fit right in, if only he changed clothes. Shouldn't you ask Naruto that? Kakashi blinked. He opened his mouth and closed it, like a fish. He'd never been so grateful for his mask before. I wasn't talking about Naruto, he said slowly, after gathering his wits again. I meant Itachi. Sasuke's eyes bled into the Sharingan, faster than Kakashi blinked. The cold fire in the depth of the Genin's eyes were almost frightening. That man is not me brother, and if you ever call Thatkinslaesic, where I can hear, I will crave your Sharingan out. Respecting the wish of a dead or not, he growled, lacing his words with K intent. Kakashi's B ran cold. Not because of the K intent, no, it was just Adrop, but because that was an all too real truth. Sasuke gathered Shiro into his grip and rose. That man does not exist. I have no business with traitors and kinslayers. Let the Konoha hunters catch him. What he will get from the hunter nin, and once he is dragged back, tossed in front of the council, shall be enough. I will ask him why he had done it, tell him that he failed the Uchiha's policies about family and kin, and then he can rot in a cell for the rest of his days, for all I care. He turned and started walking away. Kakashi needed a moment to understand what had been said. Before he could comment, Sasuke spoke again, without turning. Kakashi could only trace the unfamiliar moon circle symbol on his vest's back. Countless shinobi of my kin, those who had the Sharingan, fell for it. Fell for what? The Nadaime called Sakachili the Nikushimi no Noroi. He is one of them, one of the fallen. I shall not fall for that curse. Naruto has shown me that I can live without falling for it, and Naruto is more my brother than he will ever be. And then, he leapt into the trees, leaving Kakashi alone on the training ground. Sasuke was not bent on revenge, like some of the evaluations said. No, he was just a natural loner. In fact, he could care less about what happened to Itachi, apparently. First, he had said he would go after the older, but no. He meant it, that he would ask his questions and then leave Itachi. Leave the man to carry the weight of his actions. And hell, he'd heard about the Uchiha's Nikushimi no Noroi. It was the ideal completely opposite to Konoha's Wall of Fire. Walter Minato-sensei had said the Uchiha had overcome it, since Konoha's founding. Perhaps they hadn't. Perhaps Itachi had fallen for it, like Sasuke had said. And it was Sasuke himself, who was free of it, and he was willing to look into the future, not pursuing Itachi, as long as he had Naruto by his side. Sasuke was definitely being more mature about this whole thing than he had the right to be. Come on, Kakashi had been in a similar situation and he had not been half as mature about it as Sasuke was. If not for Minato-sensei and Kushina-san, he would still be living in the Hitaki compound. Almost as if he'd lived a life before, along with Naruto. As if they knew all the pain and suffering and joy of life. And trough it all, they'd learnt that it was best to stick together, no matter what. He mused. Kakashi scowled at his thoughts. What was he even thinking? What was he thinking? That the boys were some extremely old people in young bodies, who'd lived once. All the better, they were, who? Those Ashura and Indra the summons had called them. No. Totally, utterly ridiculous. And impossible. Even if something like being reborn in a different body was possible, how much power would that need? That would take awfully lot, and that would mean the boys had enough power, somewhere in them, to match a Biju. To carve a valley, to reshape the land, only because they were having fun. The boys were talented, prodigies in their own way, yes. But no man, not even the Shodaime or Madara, had such power. That would make them something like half human, half god or something. And what? Their father was, who? The Rikido Sennin. No, they were a misplaced in time then, just by a millennia or so. Besides, Naruto looked all too much like his parents, to be anyone else's son. Kakashi shook his head and grunted a bit. He was just overthinking things. He should just be happy that his brats, students, were smart enough not to die early in their shinobi career. Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi was broken out of his musings by Naruto calling out to him. The scarecrow looked at his blonde student and waved nonchalantly. Hello Naruto, Sasuke. May I join? Sasuke nodded and gestured at the empty seat next to him. Kakashi smiled and ordered a beef ramen, after some consideration. What brings you here? Sasuke asked, as he ordered another bowl of ramen. Kakashi eyed his students discreetly, trying to find something, anything, that would point out that they were imposters, that they weren't the sons of their families. He found not hig out of place. They looked just as they always had. I thought it was time to tell you about the upcoming Chunin exams and that the Hokage has very high expectations of you too. The boys shared a brief surprised look and then their features were smooth and calm again. Usually it was off-putting even for some adults to hear such words and they were so calm. Naruto raised an eyebrow and gods be good, he managed it in the Samanoble sort of way Sasuke had. It was almost annoying. And what would those expectations entail exactly? Kakashi almost groaned. Were those two even children? Because, right now, it totally didn't feel like it. It was as if they were brushing off those standards the Hokage had. As if they'd lived by much higher standards, which was kind of hard to believe, with their families dead. His hurting very badly courtesy of two impossible students of his. These two are even more of a headache now, than as children. I need a raise. The first true sign of the nearing exam Kakashi has mentioned was the commotion, Sasuke noted. Konoha wasn't just the first shinobi village, it was also one of the biggest, even among the Great Five. So naturally, it was a populous place, full of life. However, this sort of commotion, that came with the nearing Chunin exams was different. Konoha had a feel to it, almost like a person. Warm, welcoming, if with a little sting. The shadows of distrust and fear lurked in every He'd learned that fast, being near Naruto. People tried being kinder to the blonde, if only to get some favors out of the Senju Uzumaki heir. The point was, that he was used to Konoha's familiarity. But now, the familiarity was disrupted by countless foreign faces, all of them shinobi. The familiarity was blown out the window, the moment his sensory brushed with a foreigner's chakra. And whenever he felt something foreign, he would steal a glance that way and have a look at the headbands. Takagakure, Sunagakure, Kumogakure, and so on. Foreign village symbols, foreign faces, and the more of those foreigners would arrive, the closer the exams would be. We're close now, his brother murmured. Sasuke had no doubt that Naruto felt this difference even more than he did. His senses and sensory were sharper than Sasuke's after all. Indeed, he agreed, as they walked off the market district. The civilians bowed and greeted him exaggeratedly. Uchiha-sama and Senju-sama echoed around them. Some of the older generations said that how he and Naruto were side by side was probably how the Shodai and Madara had been. It grated at him that people compared him to Madara, a traitor and madman who sought the destruction of the world. Naruto froze suddenly, perking up, watching and listening, like an animal. Then, his violet eyes narrowed. Shukaku, he whispered just loud enough for Sasuke to hear. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. I'm sorry. Naruto stole him a glance. Shukaku. He's here. His Jinchuriki is here, he clarified, his voice still low. Sasuke hummed. Lead the way then. I want to see who's the person our brother got stuck with. Naruto nodded and leapt onto a sturdier stall's top, before leaping further up onto the roofs. Sasuke followed the whisked blonde without question. He allowed Naruto to have a few steps on him, so he could properly locate their Tanuki brother. This way, if Naruto took a sudden turn or stopped without warning, Sasuke wouldn't run into him. There, Naruto said, pointing at two Suna shinobi. One was a girl with sandy blonde hair and a massive tesson in her back. The other was a boy with painted face in black, cat-like suit. Now that they were close, Sasuke's senses prickled with the wild chakra. It was indeed Shukaku's, but it felt wilder than ever. And it wasn't coming from those two, but they had traces of it around them. So, Shukaku's host was their third teammate. His eyes narrowed when he saw the clown in the cat suit pick up a young kid by the scarf. Sasuke didn't need his brother's special emotion sensing to know that the boy was terrified. Sasuke spotted two other kids about the boy's age, watching from the cover of Atri, with terrified faces. That's the Sandaim's grandson. Naruto growled. Konohamaru. And the kid was in trouble. They shared a look and leapt down, facing the two foreigner shinobi. They flared their chakra just a bit. It was Naruto, who stepped forwards. If I were you, cat boy, I would let the child go. The one you're holding is Sarutobi Konohamaru, the Sandaime Hokage's grandson. Naruto warned. Imagine what the Hokage would think, finding foreign shinobi guests bullying his beloved grandson. Sasuke continued, stepping next to his brother. The Chunin dropped Konohamaru, as if he had been burned. The child scrambled to stand and hid behind Naruto's leg. Sasuke didn't take offense. Asura's chakra, even when flared as Atrith, had been warmer. The kid probably didn't know why, but he was gravitating towards what his mind deemed safer. Besides, Naruto knew the kid's name, so he must have met him sometime. Naruto glanced down at Konohamaru and then behind them, where the other two kids were. He patted the kid on the head. Go home. Take your friends too. Sure thing, Naruto. Thanks. Konohamaru murmured, running. Sasuke didn't need to take his eyes off of the foreigners to know the kids left, as fast as possible. The little punk, the cat-suited one growled, glaring after the children. Whatever he'd done, Sasuke see him off coldly. He is Akiled and Asatizen of Konoha. You are guests here, and any sort of violence dealt by foreigner shinobi to native civilians is an act of war. The Suna shinobi's face darkened. Who? Shut your mouth, Kankuro, before you cause more trouble and embarrassment to the village. A new voice growled from a nearby tree. Sasuke turned there, seeing a redhead hanging upside down. Then, he was gone in a swirl of sand and appeared not far from the other two. He had pale green eyes, short red hair, almost Uzumaki red, and thick rings of black around his eyes. He also had a kanji for love on his forehead. He was the one, exuding Shukaku's chakra in such sinister waves. Too much chakra leaking in those dark rings. Was Shukaku not sealed properly? Gaara, the girl murmured, fear flashing in her eyes. Gaara turned towards them, his eyes flashing with malice. And maybe just a touch madness. You too are strong, he growled, pointing at him. Mother wants your bee. The words were as if his brother used to Zenjito hit him. That kid thought that Shukaku was a girl. And his mother on top of it. Oh, sweet, Saint Ricardo. What had become of the world, and their Biju siblings after they had D? Naruto groaned out loud. Mother, he snorted. He's a Biju, for the Shinju's sake. And you got the gender wrong, kid. They don't really have one per se, but if they did, Shukaku would be male. The other two Suna shinobi looked at Naruto as if he'd lost his mind. Sasuke flared his chakra a bit more. Don't you recognize us, Shukaku? Has imprisonment dulled your memory enough to forget your Aunkin, Tanuki? There was a spike of chakra and the redhead bent down, obviously fighting the influence of the malicious chakra. They could not speak with Shukaku, but this was all the reaction Sasuke needed. Shukaku recognized them. Plus, this was all the proof they needed, to know that the seal was Asham. A bit more pressure and it would break. Not the work of an Uzumaki, for sure. Gaara finally stood up and looked at them with wide eyes, half crazed, half fearful. How are you? Mother wants your bee, he pointed at Sasuke. But also fears both of you. Oh, here's a reason to fear us. Naruto growled. Gaara's gaze shifted to Naruto. The name's Senju Uzumaki Naruto. Uchiha Sasuke. The moment they spoke the names, the Jinchuriki's teammates paled even more. We meet in the exam, Shukaku. Naruto said, his eyes lingering on the redhead. Try not to cause trouble till then. They turned, purposefully exposing their backs to the Suna shinobi. Shukaku could see through his Jinchuriki's eyes. He would surely recognize the Otsutsuki symbol on their backs. True to their thoughts, they weren't even on the nearest roof, when Gaara's, or more like Shukaku's K-intent hit them. They braced themselves and ignoring the bee radiating from the Tanuki, headed for the Hokage office, in an unspoken agreement. Best warn the Hokage. Naruto leapt into the Hokage office, only to find that the window was closed and he was flying towards it with no stopping. Oh, S. He formed two chakra chains and sent them ahead. The chains went straight trough, loudly shattering the innocent window, anchoring into the office's sturdy wooden pavement. Oh, he'd have to repair that with Mokuton later. Using the chains, he pulled himself in, shifting his stance to kick in the remains of the window, so the glass would not harm him. He landed in front of the cage desk in a crouch, chains still attached, while Sasuke stopped in the window, his shoes breaking even more of the small glass parts that still stuck to the casement. 10 points on collateral damage, Ototo, he said, a smirk appearing on his face. Naruto scowled. That freaking window ice always open. How in Ricardo shoulder have known he will have it shut now. Naruto, Sasuke. Kakashi called, giving him a warning look. What are you two doing here? Sasuke shrugged, glancing at their sensei before looking at the Hokage. Business. The Hokage studied them for a brief second. And what is that? Naruto stood, retracting his chakra chains with a soft rattle. We met Jinchuriki, 2 of them, to be precise. We came cause of Suna's, but on the way here, we also saw Taki's. Tense silence appeared, the moment he spoke the dreaded word. The Hokage's eyes glinted sharply. The Idini of Jinchuriki is a village secret, Naruto. Naruto gave the Hokage a deadpan look. We feel each other's presence. Well, more like I felt them. They didn't know who I was, cause I made sure to let my chakra mask any and all traces of the furball zone. Taki brought Shichi's host. The Hokage nodded. I will remember that. And what of Suna? Suna brought Shukaku's host, the redhead. Gaara. The problem is, that he is unstable. He was radiating so much of the Biju chakra, that even the fox roared BM. Oh, so did the Tanuki. Sasuke said, drawing all the eyes to himself. He had an amused look on his face, as their eyes met. Naruto rolled his eyes. Roared BM on Senju, a guess. Naruto shrugged. Not my fault, that the chakra is all the same, Ni-sama. A wild think Shukaku does not have fond memories of the last person, who possessed Mokuton. The Hokage looked at them before nodding. Unstable, you say? Naruto shrugged. I don't know enough Fuinjutsu to judge, that was Ali, but the others didn't need to know that, but all that chakra leaking was not nice. And the crazed look in the guy's eyes, when he saw us with Sasuke, he shook his head. And when the guy revealed himself, he brought all that intent and madness. It can't even name the proper emotion. It almost shut down my senses. Keep an eye on him. The Hokage's expression darkened, before it was back to normal. Thank you for the warning, Naruto. We will keep extra eyes on that group. We will also try to locate the Shichibi's host. Perhaps you could aid the Anbu later. Naruto shrugged. Sure. He darted toward Sasuke. Sorry for the broken window. I'll patch up the pavement later, and then he leapt out, followed by Sasuke. What sort of little monsters you two have for students, Kakashi, Yamato? Asked Asuma, looking at his colleagues. Kakashi and Yamato shared a look. Cute, protective students, who can be destructive trouble magnets, when they want to be, they answered in sync. The next day Naruto and Sasuke found themselves pacing in the Namika's house. Shiro was laying on his pillow, below the window and watched them. A few days before they'd moved into the apartment, that had been Namika's Minato's before he married. After the marriage, the couple had lived in the Uzumaki compound, which had been destroyed, when Kurama had been unleashed. Luckily, the Namika's house, on the border of the merchant and clan districts, was completely intact and the Hokage had given Naruto the keys after some probing. It was much more comfortable place to live for the two of them, than the tiny, old apartment on the border of the red light district. They had added small personal touches to their rooms. Naruto had taken his father's old room and Sasuke claimed what Kakashi had said, being the guest room. Tomorrow's the first day. Naruto murmured. The written exam. He groaned. Why does there have to be something written? Sasuke stopped and huffed. That's our smallest problem right now, Ototo. Naruto glared at him heatedly and his eyes seemed to flicker red for a second, or to Sasuke knew that it may very well have been a trick of the light. Naruto's dense chakra was like another layer to Thihak Fuin, impossible for Kurama to penetrate. Not at half power. After all, half of the fox was sealed within the Yondaime and now, the Shinigami. We'll keep an eye on Shukaku and Chome, the blonde murmured. I'm more worried about the exam. Sasuke couldn't help the chuckle that escaped him. We were once capable of craving valleys and make the Biju cower, just with a few words and you're worried about writing a few words on a piece of paper. He asked incredulously. Naruto's expression darkened. I can't help it. I'm bad at writing things. Well, things that are not seals. Sasuke shook his head. You know enough to scrape past. But, do you want to go over some of the things we might need? He asked in a softer tone. It was obvious that the blonde was on the verge of a panic attack. Naruto paused and looked at him for a long moment. Then, his expression turned sheepish. Please. The next morning, the brothers appeared in front of the academy, armed to the teeth. Of course, most of their weaponry were hidden beneath their clothes and in easily accessible storage seals on their bodies, that were covered by their clothes. Morning boys. Naruto grinned at the sight of their senseis. Kakashi-sensei. Yamato-sensei. Good morning. Sasuke greeted, pleased to see the two Jonin. It helped ease the nerves, especially Naruto's nerves. Because the former prodigy of ninja Wasnoten Edge, he refused to admit that he was in fact jumpy, even to his brother. We thought to drop by and wish you luck, Yamato said. But, you won't really need it. Just give all you have, like you do during training time, and you'll get troph without too much trouble. Naruto smiled softly. Thanks. Now, chop, chop. Go before you're late, Kakashi said, making a gesture towards the doors. Go to room 301. That's where the written exam will take place. Sasuke hummed and nudged his brother teammate. Thank you. Come on, Ototo. The sooner we get troph this, the sooner we can focus on other things. Naruto nodded and they walked inside, so close, that their shoulders were touching. But, knowing that the other was there helped both of them keep their minds clear and focused. In this life, they were more codependent than before. Heck, before, Indra had been such a loner, that Ashura barely saw him, despite Ashura being Indra's greatest treasure in life, his most precious person, even after things had gone downhill. Not that Ashura felt like a precious person then, constantly fighting and dodging blows meant decay. It wasn't hard to be, when they had no families of their own and the weight of the past was something no one knew. No one but them, and the Biju, but only Kurama was here and Kurama was still mostly quiet and brooding. They were just on the second floor, when they saw a group of genin gathered in front of a door, guarded by two Chunin. This is room 301, no. Let us in then. One of the girls shouted. Naruto and Sasuke shared a look. Wiping away the genjutsu with their minds was like flicking off an annoying bug. 201. They shared another look and decided to slip past as quietly as possible. If this bunch couldn't even detect such low-level genjutsu, then perhaps it would be best for them not to participate in the exam. They quietly climbed the stairs to the third floor. They barely left the stairs behind, when they ran into three genin, bearing Konoha headbands. One was a brown-haired girl, the other was a boy wearing green spandex. The last was a Hyuga. They hadn't encountered anyone from their uncle Hamura's descendants, since Hinata. Hello. Are you new genin? Asked the girl with buns. Hadn't seen you around much. Yes, we are new. Sasuke answered simply. The girl studied them for a second. Oh, I'm Higurashi Tenten by the way. They're my teammates, Rock Lee and Hyuga Neji. Senju Uzumaki Naruto, the blonde nodded, and Uchiha Sasuke. Tenten's brown eyes narrowed. You are Team 13, right? Guy Sensei said there was one selected this year, with only two genin. Yes, we are. Naruto hummed. Wait. Lee looked at them with wide eyes. You've no third teammate. Why? Sasuke shrugged. The Hokage said so. Lee's eyes shone. Uchiha Sasuke, you are called a genius of your generation and a wish to fight you. You're called the best and a wish to see my abilities matched against you. A wish to see your flames of youth. Sasuke snorted. Genius is a relative term. And my answer is no. Not now, before an exam. Maybe another day, after the exams. Ototo, we should go before we're late. Kakashi Sensei said not to be late. Naruto tore his gaze from the older genin and nodded. Let's go then, Ni-sama. He stole a glance at the others. Sorry, gotta go. Wish you luck and meet later. And with that, they hurried past, leaving three baffled genin behind. After all, there was not a single person in Konoha who didn't know the joint history of Uchiha and Senju. And these two, hailing from aforementioned opposing clans, had just called one another brother. Entering the examination room, the two were blasted by a wave of K-intent, courtesy of a few foreign shinobi, namely, shinobi from the newly formed village in the land of sound, Otogakur. Sasuke glared at him, flashing his Sharingan in warning and then proceeded to ignore them. Careful, who you treadin', someone said from next to them. Showing your eyes like that, is a truth, after all. Sasuke scowled at the silver-haired boy, who spoke. Of course it is. And you don't need to concern yourself with what Ido and don't do. The silver-haired genin raised his hand. Calm down. I was just trying to give good advice. You're new this year, right? I've participated in these exams before. It's dangerous to tread on others like that. Sasuke growled. As I said, do not concern yourself with what Ido Sasuke-kun. Someone shrieked suddenly. Sasuke looked up and a dreadful shiver passed him, as he saw the blonde menace, by the name of Yamanaka Ino. Sasuke-kun, I finally see you again. Ino said, as she jumped into his neck, drawing many eyes to them. Sasuke growled even louder and shoved her off, none too gently. Ino stumbled back, her back colliding with Choji. Stay away, fangirl, he hissed. Ino's eyes widened and she paled. Satisfied with her reaction, the Uchiha turned away. Sasuke and Naruto watched the fight, which had broken out between Afu Sound Shinobi and Kiba, after the foreigners attacked Kabuto. Well, attack was a strong word, but they did provoke a fight. But then suddenly, a man walked in and released a blast of K intent. Settle down, maggots. The man roared above the commotion. Find your seats now, before I throw you out even before the exam starts. Everyone gathered did as the man ordered and fell quiet. Satisfied with the results, the man's K intent disappeared. Better. My name is Morino Abiki and I will be the proctor of the first exam, which will entail filling out attest sheet. As Abiki said that, a few Chunin took the papers from the desk and started distributing them among the seated Geinin, while Abiki was writing something on the board. Now, there are some rules for this exam and whomever breaks them, will be immediately disqualified, along with their teammates. Alright maggots, time's up, so put down your pens. Anyone found writing will be disqualified, the proctor announced after 2 hours. Sasuke closed his eyes and allowed his Sharingan to deactivate, as he placed his pen on the desk. As his eyes reverted back to normal, he felt the connection between him and Naruto snap loudly, like a chain breaking. He wondered how Naruto had managed to do this. Okay, so it wasn't Naruto alone. Naruto was hopeless when it came genjutsu. Always has been. So he was sure that his brother kept chewing Kurama for the first 20 minutes of the exam to reach out to him. Then, when Kurama reached out to him, Toph and Link, courtesy of their special chakra, as well as his Sharingan, Naruto linked their minds Toph the use of his chains, channeling the smallest amount of Kurama's chakra. So whatever he saw with his Sharingan, Kurama also saw it and the fox told Naruto what to write. It was very convenient that an undercover Chunin sat right next to him. In short, whatever he copied from the Chunin, Naruto could write it too, despite being a row behind him, 3 seats to his right. Turn your sheets, Abiki instructed. Sasuke flipped it, so he now could only see the blank side of the paper. Now for the 10th and last question of the exam. Regarding how you answer this last question, you may proceed to the second round or lose all your points and never become Chunin. What? You can't be serious. Someone called from the back row. Abiki glared at the genin and the K intent in the room spiked again, just like when he had entered. This ice my exam, kid. Whatever will happen. So think carefully and remember that your choice affects your team. Leave and never become a Chunin or stay and hope you have enough points to proceed. Sasuke glanced backwards and their eyes met. Violet and they won't leave. Amidman was out there, much more dangerous than this man. Amidman, who wanted to resurrect their power-hungry and possibly mad, non-human grandmother. If the seal broke and Otsutsuki Kaguya Haim set her gaze on the world again, they would take this risk of not having enough points, no matter how unlikely that was, because if they walked away now, they would doom the world to destruction and slavery. He gave Atani nod to his brother and Naruto nodded back. The gazes shifted ahead again, waiting for the proctor to speak. Several other genin, however, decided against taking risks. Abiki nodded and glanced at a paper on his desk. Numbers 10 and 26 are also disqualified, along with numbers 11 and 4. The 2 teams left. Abiki's gaze swept the room again. Any others who wish to leave? 3 genin stood up, fear in their eyes. Abiki hummed. Your A-team. Yes. The kunoiki standing answered. She wore a taki headband. Abiki gestured to the door and the 3 genin slipped out with their heads hanging. Sasuke scowled inwardly. Cowards. Cowards, who'll never be real shinobi, because cowardience will always lurks in the H of men and no matter what training they go trough, their very nature will not change. After the door closed, another long minute of silence followed, which unsettled many. As he stole a glance at Naruto, he saw his brother frown. No doubt, the negative emotions in the room were rising with every passing second. Congratulations to the remaining genin, you passed the test. What? Sasuke rubbed his right ear and glared heatedly at the Inuzaka boy. By the Shinju, Kiba was just as loud as he had been in the academy. Naruto was also excitable and loud sometimes, but never as loud as Kiba. How the boy hadn't gone deaf from his own voice yet. Inuzaka's senses were sharper, after all. Looking at Naruto, he saw the Uzumaki rub his own ears, despite being farther from Kiba. But then again, Kurama's chakra gave the blonde sharper senses, on par with an Inuzaka. Now that he thought about it, it all made sense. The test with the disguised participants and even this question. An elaborate little scheme to weed out the weak and hopeless. But how? What was the point of the 10th question? Sasuke glanced to his other side and found his pink-haired fangirl leaning forward. Oh, why, she had been one of the smartest in class. How could she not figure it out? It was a test of skill and will, he said, drawing many eyes to himself. Information gathering, since the questions were not meant to be answered by us. Cheat, to gather information. The 10th question was a test of will. The proctor's gaze flickered to him and the man gave anod. Correct assumption. The test was made to cheat. There were people here who already knew the answer or had filled out sheets, or you were meant to cheat in other ways. Gather information and complete the mission. The last question was indeed a test of will. Suddenly, the window shattered and a purple-haired kunoichi flew into the room, dressed in mesh armor and a trench coat. She had a large banner behind her, which read, "The S and single MITARASHI Anko, proctor of the second exam. You're early, Anko." Ibiki deadpanned. Anko's gaze swept the room critically. There are much more remaining than in the previous exams we held, Ibiki. Are you going soft? Ibiki shook his head. No, they're just an exceptional bunch, I suppose. Anko turned away from her colleague to face them. All right, brats, the second part of the exam will be in the Forest of Death, under my lead. Find your way there in 20 minutes or you're out of the game. Did you notice her following us? Naruto murmured, as they tried slipping further into the commotion surrounding the Forest of Death. Sure did, Sasuke murmured. His sensory prickled with the vile chakra of the Kusa Kunoichi, who started staring at him after leaving the academy building. The chakra feels dark. Vile, his brother said. Makes me want to throw up my food. They stuck close together and maneuvered around the crowd, closer to the proctor, trying to lose the foreigner. All right, brats. First and foremost, fill out the sheets that are being distributed. Anko said. Why is that necessary? Sasuke turned at the familiar voice. It was the Suna Kunoichi, the one who was on the same team as Gaara, Shukaku's host. And the redhead, as if sensing his gaze, looked at him. Sasuke's eyes narrowed and he saw that flash in his eyes again. A mix of madness and fear. Oh, yes, Shukaku had reason to fear them, especially Ashura. He was sure that the blonde would give a piece of his mind to the Tanuki about how to and not to handle humans. There will be deaths in this part of the exam. Anko answered. The sheets are that you acknowledge that and take the risk. So, if anyone. Sasuke shared a look with Naruto. Now, that was an interesting approach. An exam to determine who were ready to advance on the power ladder, and they already spoke of deaths. But then again, violence was part of human nature, more so for shinobi than for anyone else. When the papers reached them, they filled out the form and gave it back. After about 20 minutes, Anko called for their attention again. Now, each team will get a scroll. It will be labeled either Asurth or Ashivan. To have a chance at passing this part, each team must have one Earth and one Heaven scroll and reach the tower in the middle of the forest within a week. This will see your numbers in half, as you will have to fight each other for a second scroll. Anyone who opens the scrolls before reaching the tower will be disqualified and sent home in disgrace. Also, those who lose a teammate will also be forbidden from proceeding on to the next round. A week in there. And what of our food? Naruto rolled his eyes and Sasuke almost snorted in amusement, as the blonde mouthed a typical Akamaiki question. The forest is filled with animals and plants. Anko answered. You can find everything for survival in there. Food included. However, those who are careless will be food themselves. Food to the forest. A large, thirsty grin appeared on her face. Once the gates open, you may begin. And then, she was gone in a swirl of leaves. A few minutes later, they got their own scroll heaven. So they would need to get an earth scroll before they could make it towards the tower. Naruto immediately sealed the scroll in a storage seal, so they wouldn't lose it. Then, when the gates opened with thunderous rumble, they leapt into the forest. No matter what, they would reach the tower, in possession of both scrolls. They stopped on a high tree branch and watched the other genin teams pour into the forest, from their carefully concealed spot. "So any plans, Ni-sama?" Naruto asked. "Survive, get a scroll and get to the tower in time," the Uchiha answered. The Jinchuriki deadpanned. "So to the point." Sasuke rolled his eyes. "I don't know yet. Maybe try confront a team and fight to get an earth scroll. Then, if we have it, we can focus on survival and getting to the tower. But, we also have to count on meeting a team, who have a heathen scroll like we do. It would be a setback." His brother nodded in agreement. "Let's head towards the tower. If we meet others, we fight. If we don't have the scroll, by the time we reach the tower, we can still set a trap for other teams or just simply confront them." Fine. But actually, we could take out anyone who comes our way. Less people to worry about in the finals, then. Naruto nodded with a grin. "Fine with me." They had been heading towards the middle of the forest, when Sasuke detected it. After passing the same tree twice, he noticed it. The small fluctuation of chakra, that usually meant genjutsu, was in effect. He shared a look with Naruto and the blonde gave a small eye roll, signaling that he had noticed as well. They decided to make another round in the illusion. Doton, Doku Agyo no Jutsu, Earth Release, Underground Projection Fish Technique. Sasuke flared his chakra, disrupting the illusion, just as Naruto turned to catch the attackers. His brother formed two sealess shadow clones, to confront the other two. The attackers had headbands and wore pale yellow jumpsuits, with rebreathers. "How did you?" asked the one in the middle, with both of his eyes visible. "You can't deceive a censor," Naruto said, jumping at the middle one. Sasuke raised his hand in a tiger seal and let loose a fireball, as his brother knocked the other one unconscious. One of two, the one with a single eye visible, dodged the fireball and jumped at Sasuke. Sasuke, having no other choice, took on the genin in a short spar, soon overwhelming the other with speed. The fact that he could read the other's movements also helped. In less than 5 minutes, the three genin were tightly bound to a tree with Naruto's chakra chains, and Sasuke crouched down to search for their scroll. Predictably, the shinobi trashed against their bonds, trying to break the chains, uselessly. "Found it," Sasuke said with a small grin. As he showed it to Naruto, both of them chuckled. It was just the one they needed. "Earth," Naruto murmured. "Wonderful. We can head for the tower." Sasuke nodded and they leapt into the trees again, ignoring the enraged calls of the other team, in favor of getting out of the forest. Despite their best efforts, they'd spent the night in the wild, after defeating the genin and taking their scroll. They had managed to catch hare for food, and Naruto had identified several plants and berries, which were used as seasoning. They rose with the sun and quickly cleared the evidence of their overnight stay. Naruto checked his storage seals, where their scrolls had been placed, but when he found them in place, they decided to hurry towards the tower. The sooner they got out of this place, the better. Naruto had mentioned that it had the lingering feeling of Mokuton, no doubt, from the Shodai's time, and despite the chakra remnants, it still gave him an uneasy feeling. Sasuke had to agree. Something about the place just made him feel off. He'd always been a light sleeper, but he had barely had any shut-eye last night. They slowed, when they reached a clearing, thinking for a second. Should they pass Trough fast and reveal their positions, and possibly even walk into a trap, or should they go around the clearing to remain hidden? Their thought process was abruptly halted, when they were hit by a powerful K-intent. They both whirled around, taking a step back, their eyes searching the greenery, from where the chakra had hit. "Kakuku, I found you too," an unknown voice hissed. "You are talented for someone so young, to keep avoiding me for so long, Sasuke-kun, Naruto-kun." A tall figure melted out of the shadows, pale-skinned, with yellow, snake-like eyes, wearing pale gray garbs and a large rope tied around his waist. The attire was completed by a kusa headband tied around the man's forehead. Alter, if not for Naruto's heightened sensory, the blonde admitted to himself, he would have easily said that the stranger was a woman. A woman, or Amon too tall, his chakra too powerful to be a Jonin. He was at least a Jonin. But what was a foreigner Jonin doing here, in the middle of their exam? Eyes narrowed, the boys took a step back. Who are you and what do you want? Naruto asked. What do I want? The Yakuza shinobi asked. A smirk stretched across his lips. I want your furry friend, Naruto-kun. And I want the eyes that hold so much power. Then, the man jumped at them and Sasuke attempted to sweep at his legs, but the enemy jumped over it. Meanwhile, Naruto pulled his fist back to punch him. The man caught it and gave a small grunt, his eyes narrowed. Your hit is strong, I give you that. The man kept his fist in his hand and swung his left for a hit. Naruto dodged, but the unknown shinobi was fast, so it still scraped past. Then, he felt Sasuke mold his chakra and without a word, flames sped towards them. Naruto tried sweeping off the enemy's feet under him, this also enabled him to avoid his brother's flames. The move hit, but the enemy burst into mud. Naruto cursed in the privacy of his mind, leaping back, standing back to back with Sasuke. Where was he? Left, right, above or below? The snake-like bastard emerged from the ground. Sasuke leapt upwards. No surprise, his brother had always been faster than him, but Naruto wasn't fast enough. The Chunin dragged him into the ground. Sasuke released another fire jutsu at the enemy, while Naruto did his best to break the earth around him. Luckily, he managed to form his chakra chains, which were perfect for freeing him from the ground. Now sufficiently pissed at the unknown man, Naruto formed 4 seals. Half of the water he needed for the jutsu was created from his chakra and the other half was drawn from the air around him. He formed a great wave and sent it towards the snake man, just as Sasuke finished molding his own chakra, releasing a blast of wind. Kyoryoku, Fusui Rappa no Jutsu. Cooperation, wind-water wild wave technique they called at the same time. The jutsu caught the enemy, along with a few trees. The trees crashed loudly and the boys watched with some satisfaction. Ha! That unknown shinobi was tough and talented, but they had each other. They could work together and having such opposing abilities, sometimes worked in their favor. The man stood up, his head bent in an unnatural angle, his face split by a large grin, which they could safely say, made him look mad. Kikuku, you are strong and talented, to be able to work together like that, but you're still just genin. The man created a clone, a shadow clone, which was a Konoha-only technique, and ran at him, forcing them to split up. Naruto took on the clone, while Sasuke was left to deal with the original. The blonde grit his teeth in anger, as the clone hit him. The strike was fast and precise, just like Indra's used to be. He'd seen it of course, but despite their best efforts, they were far from their old skills, hence why they prefer to work together these days. The strike sent him flying into a tree and as he broke a tree bark, he felt a few of his bones break. Are you going to let him win, Ashura? Kurama snarled in his mind. Are you going to be an embarrassment to our father? Naruto slowly stood up, as the clone darted closer. From the corner of his eye, he could see his brother fighting too, but it was obvious that the stranger was stronger than they were at the moment. Whoever this man was, he was toying with them and it grated at him. Either help me, so he does not win, because headed clearly state he wanted both you and Nisama's Sharingan, or keep quiet, Kurama. I need to focus, he shot back at his non-human sibling. Because, even if Kurama was upset with him for what had happened in the past, he still considered the fox a sibling. The eldest of the Biju growled. Then, just this once, I shall aid you, so we both survive. And then, suddenly, chakra, powerful, malicious and burning like fire flooded his body. He spiked his own chakra to contain the energy, as a shroud of boiling redness formed around his body. He crouched down, as he felt his senses sharpening even more and he had no doubt, that his eyes now resembled his fox brothers too. A single tail formed behind him, the chakra like a mini, orange shadow of the fox around him. Oh, so you're showing more of your power, aren't you, Naruto-kun? Who are you? He growled, allowing Kurama's voice to overlap his, as the second tail formed. He leapt at the enemy, closer to his old speed than ever before. Despite Kurama's chakra covering him, he was still mostly in control of his body. The chakra augmented his abilities, increasing his speed and strength, landing him a bit closer to what he had once been capable of achieving. But the clone was still fast. Fast and skilled enough to avoid most of his strikes, and then the frenzy of his fight was disrupted by a loud, beat-chilling scream. His eyes snapped over to the scene, where his brother fought. The pale bastard's neck had elongated and he bit Sasuke. He could feel the waves of sinister chakra coming from that direction. It was nothing like Kurama's. Kurama's was filled with rage and bitterness. This chakra was malevolent, mad and sinister in a way he'd never thought a human's could be. Was the stranger even human? Own hurt his brother and got away with it. Ni-sama, he roared, his voice more like Kurama's than his own, and as his chains formed, rapidly shooting towards the clone, a wave of intent and scorching chakra left his body. The chains caught the clone, and as the Biju chakra covered it, the clone dispersed in a plume of smoke. A third tail formed behind him, releasing more power and solidifying the chakra even more. He swiped a clawed hand, followed by a wave of chakra. It tore up the ground, rocking the forest. Sarutobi Hiruzen shivered, when he felt the massive wave of intent coming from the forest of death. He looked out his window and cursed. Only one creature had such powerful and oppressive chakra. Naruto was in possession of 2 of the 3 known ways to control and contain a creature, like the Kyuubi. Still, right now, the fox's chakra filled the air, filling his bones with dread. Something was wrong, very, very wrong. Anbu, with me and someone warn Yamato and Kakashi. We may need their help in containing the Biju. He ordered, as he disappeared in a swirl of leaves. The Hokage prayed to all the gods he could name, that they would make it there in time. Sasuke could barely breath trough the pain, which seemed to course trough his body, like his own bee. Still, despite the pain, he was aware enough to see his brother, or 2 of his brothers fight Thathing. He refused to call their enemy human. He was too snake-like, to be an actual human. Whoever their enemy was, he was no simple jonin. Not if he could handle Naruto, while using Kurama's chakra chains and claws flashing everywhere. And jutsu, Naruto's jutsu were more destructive now, yet the man still seemed to be holding back. He was fighting more seriously now, but he was still holding back, and despite that, stalling Naruto. Sasuke pressed his lips together. They had a lot of training to do, if they ever wanted to get back their former power. Pain radiated from the bite on his shoulder. He dearly wished this bat had gone, so Naruto could have a look at whatever this abomination on him was. The chakra radiating from it, filling his body, was sickening. Powerful, but sickening. Suddenly, 7 chakra signatures appeared. See trough the pain. He could identify Kakashi, Yamato and the Hokage. The other 4 were probably a squad of Anbu. Naruto landed on the ground snarling, the 3 chakra tails waving around him wildly. The forest around them was completely torn up, due to Kurama's chakra and the jutsu that had been torn around. He was glad that despite using their Biju siblings' power, Naruto was still aware enough not to go on B rampage. Oh, it seems we're having company. It was nice meeting you too. The man's yellow eyes landed on him and Sasuke glared at the stranger with his Sharingan. I hope you'll enjoy my little gift, Sasuke-kun. Orochimaru. The sharp voice of the Hokage thundered, just as the 7 people landed a few feet away. Soon we'll meet again, Sarutobi-sensei, and then, the leaves of your beloved tree will burn. The man, Orochimaru hissed. Sasuke's eyes narrowed, as his mind made sense of what he'd heard, as the black-haired bastard sunk into the ground, even as Naruto leapt at him, Kurama's chakra lashing out, like massive claws, tearing up even more of the ground. Orochimaru. Sarutobi-sensei. By the Jubi's tails, that had been Orochimaru of the Sannin. The most dangerous missing nin of the village. Okay, so maybe they hadn't been that bad, if they had stalled the man long enough, for the Hokage to arrive. The bastard was praised Agenius, once even nominated for Hokage, before Naruto's father outshone him. True, it was very likely, that Orochimaru had been toying with them, but still. Naruto hadn't used Mokuton and he hadn't shown the true capabilities of his Sharingan, either. Naruto roared and turned towards them, his eyes not his, rather, the feral red slits of Kurama. Sasuke saw all of those present tense and Kakashi raised his headband to reveal his Sharingan. He felt Yamato mold chakra as well and he saw his hands turn into wood, just as Kakashi's Sharingan spun and Kurama snarled. Not a Sharingan. He snapped at the Hatake, his own eyes activating. The adults looked at him, as if he'd gone mad. He stood up, just as Naruto's, Kurama's eyes landed on him. Indra, the fox snarled. Sasuke took a step closer. Let him go. We both know he's too tired to suppress your chakra, even with his abilities. Let him go, Kyuubi. Why should I? Sasuke rolled his eyes. I may not be an Uzumaki, but that's Theshiki Fujin. A contract with the Shinigami is not something that can be escaped. Not by me, nor by Ashura, or you. Let my brother go. I could just kill you now. Sasuke shook his head, as he took another step closer, ignoring the pain in his body. The F surely hit hard and the seal whatever it was wasn't helping either. And revenge would not get you anywhere. In fact, you would seal your own fate. We're here Tostafum. If you stop me from helping Ototo, you will end up used, like before. Like in the valley. Or 12 years ago. Besides, if you tried me, you'd be going back on your own word. The fox snarled. Watch your mouth, Tsuki no Urashi. Luna Divina. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. He had not heard that moniker in ages. He didn't even remember how he came to have it. He remembered though, that it was because of his eyes. Because of the Sharingan's predictive properties. He remembered that at the dawn of time, those who knew little of chakra, and even less about him and his family, thought he could see the many possibilities the future held. Or what will you do? You. The chakra flickered and Naruto's eyes turned back to their natural violet. Sasuke relaxed, as he felt the Mokuton rise to the surface and tamper down the fox's influence. Ototo. You should not rile him up so much, Ni-sama. Naruto murmured, his voice his own, despite the shroud of orange still covering him. He should know better than to try to break the seal, when you wanted a way out of something messy. Besides, I have nothing to do with that mess this time. Sasuke pointed out, as he took another careful step towards him. You always have a hand in such things, the fox snarled, taking control for another moment. All your kin are as mad as you are. My kin are gone now, fox, he said coolly. Only Ototo remains. Enough now, furball. Naruto growled, his chakra rising again. The madman's gone, so you might as well go back to sleep and stop trying to break the seal, or the Shinju help me. The grass around Naruto grew as his Mokuton acted up again and Sasuke swore he also heard the soft rattle of chains. The last traces of the orange chakra all flickered out and Naruto fell to the ground with a groan. Sasuke staggered over to him and fell next to him. Are you alright, Ototo? He asked, his dark eyes searching his brother's gaze, just a little bit fretful. Naruto gave a breathless laugh, as he leaned against his side. I should be asking you that question, Ni-sama. That abomination but to you. Sasuke grunted. Yeah, some form of Fuinjutsu, so maybe you could have a look at it later. The chakra inside the seal has settled now, but it's just under my skin. I hate using power so vile and most of all, I hate using power that I had not paid a price for. Naruto. Sasuke. Kakashi called, walking closer. His face was still tight with worry, his eye remaining uncovered. Sasuke rose to his feet slowly, dragging his brother with him. We're fine. Mostly. Naruto hummed. Yeah. We have an exam to finish. No way I'm losing this, after all this mess. We meet later, Kaka-sensei. Then, even before any of those present could stop them, they were gone from the clearing with Ashunshin. They had the scrolls and now, they would just have to stumble their way through the forest, despite their exhaustion. It shouldn't be too hard. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.